Hi everybody, it's Terry with Crafty Book Nerd here today with another video. Today's video is all about the books I read for the month of August. And what I did for the month of August is I participated in the Ketchup A Thon, and this will be my third year to do that. And the Ketchup A Thon is to help you read books that you've gotten from Book of the Month. And I think I did a great job. I did have 3 books that were not Book of the Months that I read, but I was able to read 9 Book of the Months. But before we get into the descriptions of those books, you know what time it is. Time for our quote of the day. And today's quote says, "Be the color to someone's gray." So we've got 12 books to talk about. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. So like I said, I read a total of 12 books in August. Now the Ketchup-a-thon was really just for 2 weeks in August, but I decided to just make it the whole month so I could catch up on my books. I had 22 unread Book of the Months that I've accumulated, and I was able to read 9 of those. So that was 40%. So I thought that was really, really great. So I was excited about that. But before we talk about the Book of the Month books and look at the Ketchup-a-thon and build our barbecue, let's talk about the other 3 books that I read. The first one was another Lisa Jewell. Lisa Jewell is an author that I really enjoy, and this one was called Breaking the Dark. And this is actually going to be the first in a Marvel crime series. And so I'm not a big Marvel comic fan, but that shouldn't keep you from reading the book because it was still really good. This is about Jessica Jones, who is a retired superhero, and now she is a private investigator. And she is approached by Amber. And Amber is concerned about her 2 twins, Lark and Fox, because since they came home from spending the summer with their father in the UK, they have been acting strangely. And she wants to know what happened when they were there to cause this change in her children. And so it was a mystery. And I really enjoyed it, and I think that you will too. A good thriller that I gave 4 stars to. The next one, The Secrets of Us, also another author I've read before, Lucinda Berry, who I've enjoyed. This is an older one of her books. She's an author I want to read to zero, and this one was published in 2021. And in this one, it's the story of 2 sisters, and they are trying to escape their past. They're actually not real sisters, they're foster sisters, but they've grown up together. We have Crystal, who is a lawyer, and Nicole, who is married to an architect. And she does not believe that her husband is who he says he is. And so she tries to kill him, and she is committed to psychiatric hospital. So Crystal comes in to save her sister, and she starts asking a lot of questions. And what happens when she starts asking questions is it leads to a dark shared past of a horrible tragedy that the sisters faced. There's lots of flashbacks from both of the sisters that helped us figure out the story and find out what secrets they were hiding. And I gave this one 3 stars. And the last one I read that was not a Book of the Month was my book club pick, and that was Spark of the Everflame, Pen Cole. And this is the first in a new series. I really, really wanted to read this book. The premise sounded amazing. It was right up my alley. It was, magic, a cool world they were in, kind of a fantasy. And so I was really excited, but it did fall a little bit short of that. The story follows a character named Diem, and she is a young woman who is looking for answers about her missing mother. And as she starts searching, she finds out some things about herself. There was a lot of text in this book. I thought it was longer than it needed to be, and a lot of it just didn't really say anything. It didn't add to the story. It didn't help me understand what was going on, and I stayed lost a lot. Now, there were some side characters that I really liked, and I would love to have had a little bit more information about them. There was a cliffhanger at the end, but it felt like it took forever for me to get to the cliffhanger. Now, I did purchase the whole series on Kindle because it was a special if you got all 3 of them. So I know I'm definitely going to read the second one. I heard that the third one was the best, so we'll see how I do on that one. But anyway, this one kind of fell short. I gave it 3 stars. Now, let's talk about the Book of the Months that I had on my shelf that I read. All right, these are not in really any particular order. So we'll start with The Resort, which was the Book of the Month for February of 2024. And that is by Sarah Ochs. I'm not going to try to say it because I'll butcher it. This was a debut book by this author, and it did not read like a debut. It was definitely a vacation thriller vibe in this book going on. It was set in a remote island in Thailand. I've always enjoyed books that are set on remote islands because you know something's going to happen. They're not going to be able to get help because they're all out there by themselves. And so I enjoy that. This book was full of flawed characters. It's narrated by our two female protagonists. We have Brooke and Cass. Brooke is an influencer, and she travels all over the world and gets places like the resort to pay for her to stay there, and she does little blurbs on her Instagram or whatever, her social media, about the place to get other people to come. And so she's doing that, and she really likes her life there, and she feels like this is kind of a family, and she's enjoying that. Now, what happens is once you've been there for a while, you're called a permanent. And Cass is already a permanent. She is a permanent. And so things are not going as well as they should be. And there's an accident that happens, or an incident that happens. And what happens is a newcomer that has come has fallen off of a cliff and died. I don't want to tell you too much more than that, but everyone, of course, that's on the island is suspicious, and they're all pointing fingers at each other, and we're all trying to figure out who did it. There was an ending. The twist at the ending left my jaw on the floor, and I look forward to more books by this author, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next is the return of Ellie Black by Imoko Jean, or Jean. And this one was from May of 2024, so also a fairly new one. This story is full of female characters, lots of female characters in this book. And it's about Ellie, of course. And Ellie disappeared 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden, Ellie is back. And she will not answer any questions from the detective. And the detective is Chelsea, and Chelsea wants answers because 15 years ago, Chelsea's sister went missing. And she's hoping maybe if Ellie can give her some information, she might be able to find out what happened to her sister all those years ago. There was a little bit of uncomfortableness in this book, reading about what happened to Ellie when she was captured. There was a twist in the book, and the ending was, once again, not something I saw coming. And so this was another 4-star read for me. Next, we have House of Glass by Sarah Pekonen. I can't pronounce these names. I'm terrible. I need to start looking them up. This one was a little bit tense. And the reason it was tense for me is it was because about a young girl. And the young girl is a suspect in the nanny's death. And anytime there's a book where there's a child involved who may have murdered somebody, it's just an uncomfortable feeling. And I have a hard time reading any book where children are traumatized. And that's what happens in this book. Rose, his parents are going through a divorce. And 1 month prior to the divorce, and the nanny falls out the 3rd-story window. And Stella comes to investigate. And not really investigate, but she's kind of like a child advocate. And so her job is to get the story from Rose and figure out what happened. And Stella's very wrapped up in this case because she also was traumatized as a child. So we have 2 storylines going on. We have Stella trying to figure out what's going on with Rose, and Stella is also dealing with the grief of the loss of her mother and trying to find out exactly what's going on with that. I was invested in both of the stories. I wanted to know, of course, who killed the nanny. I was invested in Rose and what was going on with her. And then, of course, I wanted to know about Stella and her backstory. We learned some secrets about the house, and we learned some secrets about the characters. And we follow the clues. And it was definitely a thriller. But I was not surprised at the ending on this one because I did kind of have it figured out a little bit. And that's House of Glass, and I gave that one 4 stars. The next one is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa L. Matlin. And this one was from September of 23, a little bit older one. This one is about a social media influencer again. That seems to be a popular theme these days, who buys a house where a murder took place. And she plans to fix this house up and hopefully sell it for a profit. And that's what she wants to do. Her name is Sarah. And so she hopes to do all this on her blog and get more followers on her blog. But one reason she's doing it is she's trying to forget about her failing marriage. And she's hoping that this will help things. But once Sarah gets to the house, some strange things start happening with the house, with the builders, with the neighbors. There's just a lot of strange things that aren't adding up. And then Sarah starts receiving notes, and she is convinced that someone is out to kill her. So what happens with Sarah is her life starts to spiral out of control, and she begins to wonder, is this worth it? What I'm doing, fixing up this house, is it all worth it? The story had a good premise, but it fell short for me. There was a lot of buildup, and it was tense, and I thought something interesting was going to happen, but the final reveal was a bit of a disappointment. So this was just a 3-star for me. The next one, and you'll notice I don't have the sleeve on the book because I was reading it while I was camping, and I took the sleeve off, and the sleeve's in the camper, and I'm not going out there to get it. Only If You're Lucky by Stacy Willingham, who I've read other books from. And this one didn't have a date. It was just a thrills and chills. They did some specials, but let me look at the copyright real quick, and I can tell you when this one was. This was 2023, so not too old. And I read some books from her before, and I enjoyed those. So this one did not disappoint. It's a story about female friendships gone wrong. There are dual timelines, which is one of my favorite things. I love dual timelines. It's about Margot at the end of her freshman year, and she is invited to take the 4th bedroom in a house that she's to share with friends. And Margot was kind of a loner, didn't have a lot of friends, so this was an opportunity for her, and she was really excited. She was happier than she had ever been in her life, until there's a murder, and the young lady that asked her to live there, Lucy, disappears. Margot wants to fit in so badly, but things from her past are haunting her. And about 2/3 through the book, things start coming together as we figure out how the story will end. And this one was a 4-star for me, so enjoyed that one. Next we have Did You Hear About Kitty Carr by Crystal Smith Paul. Interesting cover on this one. And this one I think was fairly new. Let's see. Yeah, May of 2023. Never read anything by this author. This one was historical fiction, and I'm finding more and more that I really enjoy historical fiction, and I really enjoyed this one. Kitty Carr is a white young woman who is an icon on the silver screen, and she dies. And when she dies, she leaves her fortune to 3 black sisters. Now, the 3 black sisters are already wealthy in their own right, so you know, they didn't really need the money, but everybody wants to know, why would a white woman leave her fortune to 3 young black ladies that she has no relations with? Elsa, one of the sisters, is very curious and just wants to make sense of this and starts digging for more information to learn about Kitty Carr. It's a story about racism. And it's also interesting because I have read something similar to this where there were black people who were light-skinned and they were able to pass for white because of their skin color. And in this story, we follow the perspectives of Kitty in the past and Elsa in the present, trying to figure out what's going on. There is a trigger warning for this of sexual assault early on in the novel. And it's about the choices we make and how those choices can impact your life, how they can impact your family's life, and how it can even go down generations. I was engaged with this story and the characters. I read it quickly. It made me think about what women of color in this time period had to endure to survive and get by. and that was really good, and I gave this one 4 stars. The next one I did is an audiobook, and I actually didn't purchase this one as one of my book of the month selections, but I thought about adding it on later, so I went ahead and included it, and that's The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Heard a lot of talk about this one, and so I listened to the audio. I highly recommend the audio. So good. This is a twisty story where we learn that not everyone can be trusted, not everyone is who they say they are, and we all have something to hide, and they all did in this story. It's a thriller. It's a family drama. In 1975, Van Laura summer camp, a young lady wakes up to find the bunk beside her, where Barbara is supposed to be, is empty. Barbara is the daughter of the owners of the camp, the Van Lauras. And she's not the first child to go missing, because 14 years prior, the Van Laura's son, who they refer to as Bear, went missing and was never found. So now their daughter is missing. And here we go again, and they are trying to figure out what happened, and did it have anything to do with their son being missing for 14 years. There were a lot of different characters in this story, and I think listening to the audio, having the different voices, helped me to keep up with who was who, because at times it was confusing. There were a lot of different timelines, but once you started putting the pieces together, then you realized what was going on, and it was definitely a twisty, family-driven thriller that I really enjoyed, and I definitely think if you're going to pick this one, you need to do the audiobook, and this was another 4-star. I had some really good reads this month, y'all. The next one was A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson, and I've read Peter Swanson's The Kind Worth Killing and The Kind Worth Saving, and I actually enjoyed those better than this one. This one I did not enjoy as much, and only gave this one a 3 stars. One thing I did like about this one is that Lily, who was in the other 2 books that I just mentioned, returns in this one as one of the characters. And so that was interesting. So in this story, we have Martha, and Martha is a librarian, and 2 years ago, she married a young man named Alan, who she really didn't know much about, but they're married, and she's, pretty much happy. Well, Alan's job is he travels to educators conference, and he sets up his booth, and he sells like teacher stuff, shirts and mugs and pencils and all that kind of teacher stuff. Being a teacher, I love all that stuff. So yeah, so that's what he does. Well, something interesting happens. When he returns from one of his trips, one of his conferences, there's a story about a young woman who was found, they thought committed suicide off of a balcony, and it happened to be in the same city where Alan was. And then other little things start giving Martha these vibes that something isn't right with Alan. And so she wants to find out what's going on, and as the story progresses, other bodies start to turn up in other cities where Alan has been. And so she asks her friend Lily, so Lily from the other 2 books, who's an investigator, comes in to help her and figure out what's going on. Swanson, as usual, takes us to dark places with twisty plots and endings that you never saw coming. But like I said, it was just a 3 for me, and not my favorite by this author, but it was still a good one. The last one I have to talk about is Like Mother, Like Daughter. Oh, did I tell y'all when the Peter Swanson one was? I think I forgot to tell you that. That one was June of 24, so that one was very, very regular. Very soon. Like Mother, Like Daughter by Kimberly McCrate. And I've also read some books by her before. And this one was from August of 2024. So this was like my recent pick just recently. So it looks like I picked a lot of the recent ones. I need to go back and read some of the older ones. So in this one, this is a domestic thriller about Cleo and her mom, Kat, who don't have the best relationship. Not all mothers and daughters have the best relationship, and they really don't in the beginning of this book. Kat has asked Cleo to come over for dinner so that they can, talk about some things, because they haven't seen each other in a while. So Cleo agrees. Well, when she gets to her mom's house, her mom isn't there. Not only is her mom not there, there's food burning on the stove. She finds a bloody shoe, and things just get worse from there. Her mother is gone. We get 2 different points of view in the story. We get Cleo in the present of what's going on as she's trying to find her mother. And then we get her mother, Cat, in the weeks leading up to her disappearance and what happened with her. There is a lot going on in this story. It's very emotional. It was like a roller coaster of emotions. It's a love story between a mother and a daughter and what lengths they will go to save each other. And I really enjoyed it, and I gave this one 4 stars. So there you have it, the 12 books that I read for this month. So what I want to do now is talk about my Ketchup A Thon. Got my little paper here, and talk about my barbecue and build my own cookout and see what I'm going to be doing at my cookout. So the first prompt was location. And my location for my cookout is going to be the beach, because I chose a book that was set in a different country, and that was the resort was set in a different country. So we're at the beach for my cookout. Okay. Next, it says, what guests are you going to invite? Well, I'm going to invite family, because I read a book about family, and that was Like Mother, Like Daughter, this one. Okay, about family. I also get to invite my friends, because I read a book about found family, and that would be, did you hear about Kitty Carr? Okay. And I get to invite the neighbors, because I read a book that had neighbors in it, and that was The Stranger Upstairs. So I got a big crowd coming to this party at the beach. So next, what meat am I going to serve? Well, I am going to get to serve burgers and hot dogs, because I read a historical fiction, which was, I can't keep up with my books. Did you hear about Kitty Carr? That was historical fiction. So we're going to have burgers and dogs, not real dogs, hot dogs. And then also, we're going to get to have shish kebabs, because I read a book that was a mystery and a thriller. I actually read several mystery thrillers. I just picked for this one, A Talent for Murder. So we're going to get to have burgers and hot dogs and shish kebabs at our party. And for the sides, we're going to get to have pasta, because we read a book with different points of view, and that would be Like Mother and Daughter, because we have the 2 different points of view in that book. So there's pasta. And we also get to have a fruit salad, because we read a book with a colorful cover, and that was The Stranger Upstairs. And we get to have chips, because I read the shortest book, and that was A Talent for Murder. And we get to have baked beans, because a simple cover, and I considered A Talent for Murder also a simple cover. So we get chips, baked beans, pasta salad, and fruit salad to go with our meat. And then dessert was a free book of your choice, and for that one, I counted The Return of Ellie Black. So, and games, what games are we going to play? If you had 1 activity prompt, you get to play cornhole. 2, you get to play bounce ball. Or 3, you get to play volleyball. Well, I met 10 of the prompts, and so we get to play all 3 games at my barbecue. So we're barbecuing at the beach with our family, friends, and neighbors, with pasta salad, fruit salad, hot dogs, shish kebabs, chips, baked beans, and dessert, and we're playing games. So there you have it, my Ketchup A Thon 2024. I'm excited that I was able to knock out 40% of the books that I currently own from Book of the Month. Of course, my August books haven't come in yet, so those will be coming soon. So in my next video, I will be talking about series September. I'm going to be trying to read books in a series, and so we're going to talk about that for September. So thanks for joining me today. I know this video was a little long. I tried to be as brief as I could on these books. If you've read any of these and you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear from you. If you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm so excited. I'm finally over 500 subscribers. Been working on that for 2 years. Hopefully within the next year or so, I'll be up to that 1,000 mark. I hope so. So like I said, welcome. And if you're new, I would appreciate you subscribing to my channel and liking it and sharing with anybody else that might be interested in books or crafts. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time on Crafty Book Nerd.